to Listening Librarians. For July, we thought we'd tie into our summer reading club theme of All Together and discuss books that deal with friendship. So today, Katie and I are very happy to welcome Kimberly, our teen librarian. And Kimberly, how about you? What's your first book that you really enjoyed that deals with friendship?
My first and probably one of my absolute favorite books deals a lot with like found family, created family, and that is Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. If you've been watching Shadow and Bone on Netflix, that kind of leads you up to Six of Crows. They haven't shown anything that takes place in Six of Crows yet, but the characters will be very familiar if you've seen Shadow and Bone. There's Kaz, and he is kind of our ringleader of the whole group. There's Inez, who is kind of his romantic interest. There's Jasper, who's a sharpshooter. And Waylon, who's our explosives expert. And then there is Nina, who loves waffles and can make your heart stop if she wants to. And also Matthias, who used to kill Grisha, but now is, well, on the other side. So this group sets out in Six of Crows to figure out if they can find the gentleman who created a drug called Jaspruta. I can never pronounce it properly, but
I can't remember the name, so I'm going with
that.
Problem with fantasy novels.
Yes, the problem with fantasy novels is pronouncing words. But it's a drug that takes the Grisha, who are the magic workers, and increases their powers so much that they can do almost anything, but has the bad side effect of pretty much destroying them and often killing them. So they're looking for the creator of this, and they find out that he's in jail, and they have to break him out of jail. So needless to say, there's all kinds of scary and fun moments in this book. It definitely falls under friendship, as this group is so tight that they are basically their own family. And the audio cast is a full cast of speakers, so it's great to listen to on audio. But I would recommend it in any format that you might possibly get your hands on, because it's that good. It is available on Libby, and we also have the book in the library, so give it a shot. It's pretty good.
Well, and season 2 of the Netflix show kind of ends with them learning about that drug. So
Right.
it's kind of leading into this novel.
It's leading up to Six of Crows. So
Yeah.
we'll see. Hopefully it will get another season, and we'll see some of the Six of Crows material.
There you go.
For sure.
That'd be nice. Okay. Well, my first book is, it just came out last year. And this one is really looking at the power of friendship between girls in high school. And this book is called Does My Body Offend You? It's written by 2 authors. The first one is Mayra Cuevas, and the second is Marie Marquardt. And the first girl in the story is Malena. She and her family have moved from Puerto Rico to Florida after Hurricane Maria. And, there's a whole lot of change in her life, obviously, trying to adjust to a somewhat different culture. But she's got family there, and one weekend she hangs out with her cousins. I don't remember, they're washing cars. They're outside for a long, long time, and she ends up with a really, really bad sunburn. Because she only had her bathing suit. She didn't have sunscreen, all of that. So, her back is just like basically second-degree burn, and everything is really painful. So she goes to school on Monday, not wearing a bra, and she gets reported by a teacher.
Who should not be looking.
Yeah, really.
Now, the other girl in the story is Ruby, who has moved from, I think, Portland. So she's kind of new to the area too, but she's a very outspoken feminist. And when she sees Milena in the nurse's office and, learns what the situation has been, she wants Milena to stand up for herself to say, this is wrong. There's nothing about this in the school dress code. It's your body. They shouldn't be policing it. She goes on and on. So Milena decides, okay, I'm going to come back to school again without the bra because it's still really painful.
Yeah.
And she gets detention. And Ruby is like, that's not fair. So she goes out and gets one in solidarity.
Oh.
And they hang out in detention hall and they come up with a way to try and challenge the dress code and the underlying sexism and racism behind it. But as the two become friends, the really interesting thing about the book is Ruby, who is white, has to learn that she holds a certain amount of privilege that Milena, as a Latina girl, doesn't. And, she's wanting to keep pushing the boundaries and whatever, but she doesn't realize things aren't the same for Milena. So they have to work through some of their conflict and the issues with the school. And it also deals with different types of sexual assault because both of them have experiences that kind of influence how they react to some of the things in the book. So it's a really powerful book. It's kind of difficult in many ways. But it's really eye-opening and it's really powerful. It's read by two different audio narrators, Victoria Villarreal and Elizabeth Evans. And it's a longer one. It's about 13 hours, but it's really, really good. And it deals with a lot of issues that I think teenage girls these days have to deal with that we maybe don't always understand the nuances to.
Nice.
How about you, Katie?
So I listened to a book that just came out this year. It is called Momo Arashima Steals the Sword of the Wind. It is by Misa Sugiura. And so I actually liked this book because we start with a girl who believes she's friendless. She's kind of socially awkward. She's just turned 12, which is already like a really awkward kind of time of your life. And she's got a sick mom. So she's always, rushing home. She's not really having time for friends because she's got to take care of mom. But the biggest kind of thing that pulls her away from the other kids is that she's getting teased because they think that she's like hallucinating and seeing things. Now, you're going to learn later on in the book that she actually has a mom who is a goddess. And so she's not seeing things. There really is a fox wearing clothes over there. It's just that some of these other kids aren't able to perceive that. So she's not crazy. So one day she's waiting for the bus and she sees, as I mentioned, this fox wearing clothes. And a former friend named Danny is there. And she and Danny used to play really close when they were little. And he loved these stories that were reflectant on her mom's Chinese heritage. So these were, like the tales of gods and goddesses from Chinese folklore. And there's just something that happens that Danny's like, I'm going to follow her. Does he believe that she actually saw a fox with clothes? You don't know quite yet. So they end up at the mall. And while they're at the mall, this death hag, who looks like this very scary witch, is rushing around the mall. Well, now people can see the death hag. And Danny is right there. And they kind of save each other, and then the fox wearing clothes shows up. And so we end up with this trio that discover, like I mentioned, that Momo's mom is a goddess. And the reason her mother is ill is because she hasn't been to the island that she's the goddess of. So she came to what we would call Earth, fell in love, had Momo, and in the act of doing that, can't go back. So demons have invaded this magical island, her mom's magical island. And since Momo is what we would call a demigod, she can get to the island. Mom can't go back. So this fox is there, and of course he can talk. He is there as kind of like an in-between with the god world to guide her. And now Danny, who's tagging along because this seems like a great adventure to get to this island and defeat these demons. And to do that, they're going to need this sword of the wind. And so it's this great adventure of getting into this magical world and finding the sword, and then, of course, as the title tells us, stealing the sword from her grandfather, who's also a god. And along the way, kind of both Danny and she are able to forgive each other and realize, some mistakes were made, and then rekindle that friendship. And so it was a lovely tale, especially for the middle grade age group that it was written for. And book 2, which is Momo Arashima Breaks the Mirror of the Sun, is coming out in February of next year. So I'm looking forward to that. The audiobook itself is only 11 hours. So it was, fun. So check it out. So that was what I listened to.
Yeah, it's one of those that you would think was in the Rick Riordan Presents series for middle graders.
Yeah.
But it's not, and it's just as good as all of those.
Right,
So.
yeah.
So Kimberly, what was your second book?
My second book has a lot in common with my first book.
I sense a trend here.
There's a trend. I love a good heist and I love a good found family story. So my second book entails both of those. It is called The Gilded Wolves by Roshani, and it is a trilogy. But I listened to the first book again for our discussion here. And again, we have a found family. This one actually takes place in 18th century France, although it is a fantasy version of it. Our head character, so to speak, in this one's name is Severin, and he owns a hotel. He has a historian who is Filipino French, and his name is Enrique. We have Zofra. She's our engineer and our math expert. She's also on the spectrum. Layla, who's a dancer, and she can actually read memories of items when she touches them. And Tristan, who is the gardener for the hotel and an adopted brother of Severin's. This particular series has a very fascinating form of magic. I'm not going to tell you too much because I don't want to give it away. But there are houses in this series. And Severin was the heir to one of our houses, but he was not able to inherit his house. And again, I don't want to give too much away because this is a major plot line. He is promised his heirship of his house back if he can find this particular fragment of Babel. So we go into this whole heist story with all kinds of twists and turns. And if you love Six of Crows, you will love Gilded Wolves. I strongly recommend it. The audio is very well done. There's a male and female narrator, and they both do a great job. And I would recommend this, again, if you like found families, heists, anything like that, I would recommend Gilded Wolves. Thank you.
Now, that one is first book of a trilogy, right?
Right.
Okay. And have you just read them all in paper, or have you listened to them all?
I've only
audio?
listened to the first one. I've read them all in paper. The second one is called Silvered Serpent, and the third one is
Bronze
Bronze
right?
Beast.
Oh,
Yes. So,
Yeah, I haven't gotten past the first book yet, and I need to go back at some time, reread The Gilded Wolves, and then finish the
and
trilogy.
you'll want the other two with you because it ends on a cliffhanger.
Yeah,
I will warn you that.
Yeah. Well, going from a historical kind of novel to something a little more futuristic, my second book is The Disasters by M.K. England. And this one is set in kind of a interstellar outpost, I guess. Our main character is Nax Hall, and the book is all in his point of view. He's a hotshot pilot who has gone to the Ellis Station Academy, and he's managed to get kicked out of this academy in less than 24 hours.
Impressive.
Yeah. He's used to disappointing his parents. You know, sometimes it's deliberate, sometimes it's just honest mistakes and end up doing stupid things. So he gets kicked out and he is supposed to hit a shuttle to go back to Earth. And while he's waiting there, he ends up meeting a couple of other students who have flunked out. One is Ryan, who's very handsome, but also kind of arrogant. We have Z, who's a med student and really knows how to keep her cool. And we have Case, who he likes to call Genius Girl. And they're, just waiting to board this shuttle when a terrorist group attacks the academy. So they figure, okay, let's grab a shuttle so we can get out of here and figure out if we can find help. They steal one of the terrorist shuttles. They learn that there was inside help for this terrorist attack because these terrorists cut off the oxygen supply to the entire station.
Oh my goodness.
Until everybody's passed out and then they take over. But these 4 kids have to run somewhere out into space to notify someone, to let them know what's going on, and the adventure begins.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously it's sci-fi, it's adventure, there's a lot of humor. There's, these are 4 characters who don't really know each other very well at the beginning of the book, but through their adventures become friends, learn more about each other. And it's been a while since I've listened to this one. It came out in 2018, and I want to say I listened to this a year or more ago, so I don't remember a lot of details, which means I can't give you spoilers. But it is read by James Fooey, who is a really entertaining narrator. Nax is just this smart alecky kind of character, and he really nails it.
Nice.
And it's about 8.5 hours long. So if you need something that's a little more wild cards in space, there's your book.
Nice.
How about you, Katie?
All right, so I'm going to end us on the book Nothing Sung and Nothing Spoken by Nita Tyndall. Came out last year, and the audiobook's about 8 hours long. So this takes place in Berlin, 1938. So if you know your history, we've got some big things coming.
Yeah.
So it is about a group of already established friends. We have Charlotte, or Charlie, as she's called. We have Angelica, who's called Gili, and Mina, who is Jewish. So that's obviously important in Germany at this time. And then Renata. And Renata was a great character. I'd say that's going to be my only downside to this book, is that we didn't get to know her quite as well. She has shorter hair, and she kind of bucks gender traditions. Also, not a sometimes safe thing to do when the Nazis are in power. So this group of friends is kind of under the ringleader of Gili, and she finds out about this underground club with American music. And so we learn about a very real thing that happened. They called them the Swingjuden, which would just be like the swing children. And it was a group of, a large group of teens in Germany when the Nazis were coming into power who that was all they did. They had these like secret clubs where they would play American music and they would speak in English, and you would give yourself an English name to kind of like go against what the Nazis were saying. So Charlie is crushing on one of her friends, but the big problem, obviously, first off, the Nazis were not kind to people in the LGBTQ umbrella, but Gilly's father is a Nazi officer. So we've got like this added layer of fear. But there's something about your first crush, right? And so the whole book kind of centers around these 4 friends. Of course, we have to help Mina, the Jewish girl, and her family get to safety. So part of it is about, the camaraderie of that and how can we protect friends even though we're going to miss them. And then part of it is, Charlie figuring out her feelings and how to move forward. And it's just really interesting. I don't want to give anything away, but just a nice, tight group of friends that come together during a kind of scary historical time period. And then you get that opportunity to learn about the Swingjuden and some of the stuff that they got up to defy Nazi Germany. So, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like a good one, too.
Yeah.
Okay, well, next month, for August, we are going to be discussing
retellings.
Yes. So who knows what we're going to come up with. Kimberly is planning to rejoin us next month. So, it might be retellings of classic books. It might be retellings of films.
Fairy tales.
Mythology. Yeah. There's a lot out there, so we've got a lot to choose from.
Thanks for joining us.
We'll see you next month. Bye.
Goodbye.